this is an iHeart podcast.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Clay, have you heard of the Rio Reset?
Sounds like a trendy new workout, Buck.
It does, but it's actually a big summit going on in Brazil. The formal name is BRICS, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But they've just added 5 new members.
Smart move to stick with BRICS. We know what happens when acronyms don't end. They confuse everyone.
Well, that's an understatement. BRICS is a group of emerging economies hoping to increase their sway in the global financial order.
Now that sounds like the plot line of a movie. I'm listening.
Philip Patrick is our Bruce Wayne. He's a precious metal specialist and a spokesman for the Birch Gold Group. He's on the ground in Rio getting the whole lowdown on what's going on there.
Can he give us some inside intel?
Absolutely. He's been there since day one. In fact, a major theme at the summit is how BRICS nations aim to reduce reliance on the U.S. dollar in global trade.
Yikes, that doesn't sound good. We got to get Philip on the line, stat.
Already did, and he left the Clay and Buck audience this message.
The world is moving on from the dollar. Quietly but steadily, these nations are making real progress towards reshaping global trade. And the US dollar is no longer the centerpiece. That shift doesn't happen overnight. But make no mistake, it's already begun.
Thank you, Philip. Protect the value of your savings account, your 401k, your IRA, all of them, by purchasing gold and placing it into those accounts and reducing your exposure to a declining dollar value. Text my name, Buck, to 989898. You get the free information you'll need to make the right decision. You can rely on Birch Gold Group, as I do, to give you the information you need to make an informed decision. One more time, text my name, Buck, to 989898.
Welcome back in. Clay, Travis, Buck Sexton Show. Congrats, as you just heard, Buck Sexton successfully knowing how many points of safety is worth, unlike 2/3 of the Jeopardy contestants. Going to have a little bit of fun here. And this is all real, but I want to... How funny is that Wolf Blitzer clip? I mean, that he would... I mean, for everybody out there watching, he is held up as one of the brainiacs of CNN, right? Wouldn't you say that's probably fair to say that Wolf Blitzer is seen as one of the smarter guys on the air at CNN? I think that's probably fair.
Well, I don't know if it's as a result of his Jeopardy appearance, but people have been suggesting that he's like the confused fool for a while now.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Well, to be fair, he's probably, he's got to be over 70 now, right? Like that clip was from 2009.
I will say, I have heard from people within the CNN world for a long time. He's actually a pretty.
I've heard
nice
he's
guy.
A super nice guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. So I will give him total credit on. He's apparently a good dude. And we're having a little bit of fun at his expense, but he's paid millions of dollars and he's had a good run. And so, but he is apparently,
to be fair,
unlike most of the CNN anchors, and I could go through chapter and verse, he's apparently a nice guy.
To be fair, if I went on Celebrity Jeopardy and I lost $5,000, it would go insanely mega viral. And I would have to own it, right? But all the clips of me missing the questions and everything else, it would probably be better for me to go and lose a ton of money than to win a ton of money, because if I won tons of money, nobody would share it. They would be like, oh, whatever, Clay Travis still stupid, meanie head, moron. If I lost like $5,000, everybody that hates me would share it. So it probably would go more viral for a collapse than actually being successful. Okay. I tweeted this last night. I got a sense that my take, this is all real. I got a sense that my take on Superman, the new movie, had gone mega viral because yesterday I woke up and I had an email from a Japan news agency asking if they could interview me for my take on the new Superman movie.
So when you see the Suntory commercials with Clay Travis in them or Sapporo, you will know that Clay's big in Japan. Let's just say it. Clay is big in Japan.
in my entire career of sharing tons of opinions on everything under the sun, there has never been any request for me to be interviewed by any Japanese news agency.
Well, I think the one part we have to let everybody know, though, is that the director, James Gunn, I used to be, I will say, if we were talking like late 90s, early 2000s movies, I was absolutely dialed in. I had my favorite directors, my favorite actors, excited about. I don't know who's been directing movies for the last 10 years. I basically have no idea. I don't pay attention because I think most movies absolutely stink. Almost all of them absolutely stink now. He said something, though.
Here's the quote. Here's
there
the James Gunn quote. So this is where it all started. In Variety magazine, which is like a Hollywood celebrity magazine, shared a story and said, James Gunn says Superman is about an immigrant that came from other places, how we've lost the value of basic human kindness. Yes, it's about politics. That was James Gunn's take. He is the director of the new Superman movie that is opening. I think it may be already out or opening today or whatever else. I tweeted 3 days ago, and this is true, I'm going to skip seeing Superman. The director is a moron to say this publicly the week before release. America's desperate for apolitical entertainment. Hollywood's unable to deliver it. And then I continued. I said, I made a fun movie I hope everyone of all backgrounds enjoys. Is it that hard to say this when you've been given hundreds of millions of dollars of studio money to make a summer blockbuster? It feels like Tom Cruise is the only Hollywood superstar who still gets this. That's what I don't even think of all my takes. Like, I think that is like one of the most tepid, non-hot take, non-crazy takes. It has evidently gone mega viral, and the Superman community of fans is furious at me. And this, Buck, just in the last, little bit on social media, I got the following messages sent to me on Instagram from Superman fans. These are people that are furious at me. This is a representative sample. I am deluged in angry Superman fan messages. Here is one. Hey, word that you can't say on the radio. I just want to let you know Superman has been an immigrant since he was created, and that calling stuff woke means you can't find a good reason to complain. You're being a bitch. You're an idiot. Wrong you're being used. You piece of blank. Go kill yourself. James Gunn isn't the moron. You are. Your family will burn for this.
Whoa.
Your family will burn for this?
That's
for my
that's
Superman
really
movie take of, it's not a good idea to go mega political. This is crazy town.
I'm going to give you a few things here. First of all, Superman is not an immigrant. All right, if we're going to play this conversation out a little bit, let's do it, okay? Superman is an alien. He is not a human being who is subject to another jurisdiction on this planet and has citizenship elsewhere. He is from another planet. Now, that to me is actually a good case, especially when your home planet has been destroyed, as Superman's has, if I remember my comic book lore. Superman, if anything, would be an asylum seeker.
Oh.
Unlike all of the people who are showing up in America pretending that their planet was blown up, so to speak, pretending they can't go back to their home country. They are just fraudsters. So Superman is an alien, not an illegal alien, but an actual alien from another planet, does not have a jurisdiction on planet Earth that he should be in other than America. And I think under any reasonable view of asylum law, his home planet is gone, so I don't think he can go back. So I think that you could say he's a credible asylee.
Okay.
Boom.
That is amazing. You are going to be nerding out because my wife is a superhero movie junkie, super nerd. All the boys go to all the movies and everything else. She actually was upset that all the Superman people are mad at me. And she sent me this because you're going to build on this, Buck. She's also a lawyer. She said they're totally wrong. And she said what you just said, Buck. Superman is actually a true asylum seeker. His planet was destroyed. All his culture and people are destroyed. His first landing is on American soil in Kansas. This is Laura Travis, lawyer. He's orphaned as his parents die. So he's legally adopted by the Kents, who are American citizens, thus giving him American citizenship. Even if not for 1 and 2, he has unique talents of great use to the U.S. that would be impossible to find after a thorough search for other candidates, thus qualifying him for EB-1A, controversially, visa and legal channel to full citizenship. On top of all this, he ends up being one of the most productive and useful members of society, choosing to hold 2 full-time jobs as both a journalist and a crime-fighting superhero. Now, this is all.
She's absolutely spot on. Correct. I didn't know that Laura had written any of that. It's absolutely correct. So the people the director of this movie is saying he's just like an immigrant. No, jackass. That's not even vaguely correct.
And this also builds on something that I was getting at when this went mega viral. I would believe if you gave me, Buck, if I left this show and I suddenly became a Hollywood movie director, if you gave me hundreds of millions of dollars to make a movie, it might well end in utter disaster. Remember, Fox had to sell off the lot at the Pico and Motor part of it, where the Westfield Mall is now, for those of you out in L.A., because they lost so much money on Cleopatra with Elizabeth Taylor back in the day for the movie nerds. So it may well end in unmitigated disaster and the company might lose tons of money. But it wouldn't be because I said to half the country, hey, I'm trying to make an intensely political movie. I would go full Michael Jordan, Republicans buy sneakers too. I don't think it would have been smart of James Gunn to say, hey, I think it's super timely that Superman would come out right now because Donald Trump is a super president and he's Superman-like in the way that he responded to the assassination attempt. And I think that if you hate Trump, you shouldn't come see this movie. Well, that wouldn't be smart, right? I actually would agree with that take, but it wouldn't be smart if you're trying to appeal to the whole swath of America. And, I mean, look, we got a lot of people who listen in L.A., and we've talked about this before. When is Hollywood going to recognize that the reason why Tom Cruise is the last superstar is because he just wants to make apolitical popcorn movies that everybody can sit and watch that aren't trying to indoctrinate you in any way and are just about entertaining you for a great summer movie, right? I don't understand why these people can't get it through their heads that apolitical entertainment that everybody can watch, it should be the goal.
No, because the goal, these are communists. Their goal is the indoctrination. They view that they've reached a point, like James Gunn is already very rich, already has all the connections he needs. It is more important to him to make a movie that he can virtue signal to his lib friends in Hollywood about than to make a movie that makes a ton of money at this point. Like if he has to choose between those two things, otherwise how do you explain things like Snow White, which was an absolute disaster, hundreds of millions lost, and we knew it was going to lose money the whole time.
Yes.
We're not making that movie. But it's because they're so ideologically committed that it is not profit motive first. That's what they used to say, I might add. They used to say, oh, we're just doing what makes money. That's not true. They care more about the mission of indoctrination than they do making money with these films. And you see it over and over again. Because every time we say this is going to be a disaster, this is going to be a bomb, it pretty much is. The only exception to that is the Barbie movie, which was so bad. I've
still never seen it.
Oh, I couldn't get through it. I tried. I watched some of it. I'm like, this is just trash. Trash.
And is that just, it was successful because they were marketing entirely to women, and it's like girl power.
It was a girl
yay.
power. It was a whole girl power thing. Like, oh, like Barbie and the nostalgia and everything else. It is an absolutely garbage movie. Absolutely garbage movie. And just like people, Clay, I used to say that Hamilton was garbage when people were waiting in line for like 3 days for tickets. Okay. I was like, guys, I just know it's garbage, and it is garbage. And now more and more people agree with me because it's just what it is. Barbie, eventually everyone's going to realize nonsense. Don't even get me started on Avatar. Those of you who like Avatar.
Yeah, but Avatar is not, to me, as aggressively political. I know James Cameron
Fern Gully with some laser guns or whatever. It's preposterous.
But it made a lot. I think that it
did make a lot. It did make a lot of. But that was because of the technology. It wasn't because of the storyline. It was because of the 3D and all that stuff.
I'm just telling you, somebody out there in Hollywood is going to get smart enough to just say, I'm not hiring any of these woke BS moron people. We're just going to, like, whoever Tom Cruise wants to work with, we're going to double, triple, quadruple down with him. All he cares about is making movies that are going to be super entertaining. And that's what we're going to focus on. And you're going to mint money. You are going to make money hand over fist, because I just see stuff like this all the time. And it just makes me throw my hands up, because I wanted to go see Superman. I mean, I'm a middle America guy. Like, I like to go sit in the movies and have popcorn. I still like going to the movie theater. I want to go see the new Jurassic Park, even though I'm sure it's like total trash.
Michael Crichton is rolling over in his grave. Good heavens.
But I enjoy seeing dinosaurs on the movie screen. I like seeing fighter jets blow things up. I mean, I am the average American consumer. Why would you alienate anybody from Superman? You could easily say Superman is an aspirational goal that is about everyone fulfilling the best possible abilities of their innate innate gifts. Like, it's so easy to sell this movie. Just don't tell me that it's political and about immigration. By the way, when most people are opposed right now to the immigration policies, it's not even 50-50. We talked about this. It's like 65-35. The guy's a moron. Anyway, I thought you guys would enjoy it. I do think it's important culturally, but there's people out there that are furious at me for saying, hey, maybe Superman should just kind of appeal to everybody and not be some sort of woke version of Hollywood fantasy. And when you say that, the little fanboys come running and tell me my family should burn. My family should burn for my Superman take, of all things. Look, Amazon Prime in soon. Today and tomorrow, last 2 days to get great deals, including from our sponsor, Cardia, makers of the world's first FDA-cleared personal EKG. Get yourself or a family member a Cardia Mobile 6L. It can detect AFib, leading cause of stroke, small, easy to use, records right to your phone. You get 6 views of your heart, 6 times the data of any smartwatch at a fraction of the cost. Cardia Mobile, perfect way to manage your heart health at home between doctor's visits, small enough to hold in your palm or to slip into your back pocket or purse. Give yourself peace of mind. Save 10% off as well on both Amazon and on Cardia's website too. That's Cardia.com, Kardia.com, or on Amazon. Use code 106LCLAY, the number 10 as in 10% off, and the Cardia Model 6L Clay to get 10% off your Cardia Mobile 6L.
Stories of freedom, stories of America. Inspirational stories that unite us all. Each day, spend time with Clay and Buck. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hot days, humid nights, and non-stop plans. All that heat can increase hair shedding, while a packed schedule can add stress, which can impact your hair. Nutrafol's whole body approach and clinically tested formulas support your hair from within, so you can focus on living your best life all summer long.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
Thinning hair is different for men and women, so a one-size-fits-all approach to hair growth doesn't cut it. Nutrafol has multiple formulas for men and women that are tailored to different life stages, such as postpartum or menopause, and lifestyle factors, such as a plant-based lifestyle, so you can get just what you need. Plus, users of Nutrafol men reported no impact to sexual performance.
Thank goodness. While many supplements rely solely on ingredient studies, Nutrafol clinically tests final formulations to ensure their efficacy. In a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months taking Nutrafol Men Hair Growth Supplement, and 90% of women saw overall improvement in their hair after taking Nutrafol Women Hair Growth Supplement for 6 months.
Building a hair growth routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed. Enjoy free shipping, automated deliveries, and up to 20% savings with Nutrafol subscription. Plus, get free naturopathic doctor consults and a Headspace meditation subscription membership.
Start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering listeners $10 off your first month subscription. Free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com. Enter promo code CULTURISTAS.
Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com. Spelled Nutrafol.com. Promo code CULTURISTAS. That's Nutrafol.com. Promo code CULTURISTAS.
Welcome back in, Clay, Travis, Buck Sexton Show. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us as we are rolling through the Thursday edition of the program. Joined now by Congressman Jim Jordan, state of Ohio. So many different things going on right now on Capitol Hill. Let's start here. Big, beautiful bill gets passed. Was it more dramatic than you expected? Was it about what you expected? What happens now?
No, it was about what I expect. I think the economy takes off. I mean, I don't know how many interviews I've done on this issue, but it's like I say all the time, it was a good bill, Clay, because the left hated it. And the left hated it because it actually empowered people, empowered families. Tax cuts for families, school choice for families, most resources devoted to border security in the history of our country to make sure our border stays secure. And then the work requirements for able-bodied adults who currently get your tax money. In the future, they're going to have to work, which is a good thing for the economy. It's a good thing for taxpayers, but most importantly, I think it's a good thing for those individuals.
What are the most important things that you think we're going to see now changing in the economy, Congressman, since the bill has been passed? I mean, we talk about tax cuts. That's great. More money in people's pockets, more money for the private sector to let the business of the American people be business. But where do you think we're going to see some of this in a real life, day-to-day way take root and be really helpful to the bottom line of the American people?
Yeah, I think it's just that fundamental point. When you let families, when you let moms and dads keep more of their money to spend on their goals and their dreams, good things happen. That's good for that family. It's good for their community. It's good for their local school, their local business. It's just good for our economy. This was the largest tax cut in history, coupled with the largest investment in border security. Those were key items in last fall's campaign, and why the American people, I think, elected President Trump. So I think it's that basic. Now, we need the growth, because we got a huge deficit we're running every single year, piling up this big debt. We got to begin to deal with that. But step one to deal with all that is to get your economy growing at a faster clip than, of course, it was under the Biden administration.
All right, you and I are diehard sports fans. Buck is, I would say, kind of coming along a little bit. He's starting to pepper a lot of sports analogies.
Wait. Before you ask your real question, Congressman, Clay wasn't sure that I was going to know how many points you get for a safety in football. Can you believe the disrespect that sometimes I have to brook on this show?
We played a Jeopardy question for him where the two of the Jeopardy contestants got it wrong, and Buck got it right, to his credit. But I'll allow you to weigh in.
Yeah, well, no, I figured he would get it right. Everyone knows that's 2 points, but except, I guess, a few people on Jeopardy. But we love sports. I mean, now I got to tell you, Clay, for me, I'm not the greatest golfer, but I shot an 81 yesterday, so that's a good score for me.
That's really good.
Like, and it's even better when you beat your brother and your two buddies, which we got a chance to sneak out and play a little bit yesterday because this week we weren't back in D.C. So I'll take that score because I don't normally shoot quite that low, but I'll take that any day.
All right, so let's dive into this mess, because if you are a sports fan right now, the whole name, image, and likeness universe has been crazy. Yeah. And for people out there who don't know, just a few years ago, you went from, hey, you get a scholarship to go to college. That's your full compensation. Now you can get basically paid to play. You can also get name, image, and likeness. Yeah. You guys are working on a bill to try to standardize laws and make these rules consistent. Tell me what you're working on and where you are.
Yeah, we've got legislation. It's actually bipartisan support. The key sponsors are Gus Bilirakis from Florida and Scott Fitzgerald, who's on our committee from the great state of Wisconsin. And we try to outline some basic things. We want to make sure we spell out for athletes. You have a right to get NIL money. You have a right to work with agents. You have a right to keep that information private. We make sure in this bill that the agents have to disclose. Right now, nobody knows who some of these agents are. These kids transferring every year. So agent disclosure. We put in some guaranteed rights for the student athletes. Now, most of these student athletes already have this, but we want to make sure it's in there. And then probably the key part is we allow the entity that governs college sports, and we don't say what it is, but in essence, it's the NCAA, to set some rules. and basically say, okay, we're going to give you liability protection. This is the antitrust issue. We're going to give you liability protection so that you can say, here's what it takes to be eligible. You got to maintain a certain GPA. Here's how many years of eligibility. We got kids, student athletes today who are competing like 6 years. The COVID and everything else, and the red shirt years and everything else, they're doing like 6-7 years of competition. So we let the NCAA set eligibility. We let them set the number of times you can transfer. Right now, some of these athletes are transferring, 4, 5, 6 times. And what we're saying is you're going to get one transfer under this, we'll allow them to get one transfer. And then we also put in there this sort of salary cap concept, which every sports organization has. And I want to thank you, Clay. I know you've been working on this issue a ton with college, with conference commissioners, with athletic directors and coaches. We're trying not to get too prescriptive, but we think this is the kind of bill that makes sense, particularly after the big decision, the House decision. And then finally, there's a few more things where we talk about preempting states. You can't have each state setting up a standard and trying to outdo the other. So that's part of the legislation as well.
I've been working on this, because I just think it's important to have a standard set of rules that I love college athletics. People out there understand this. What is the likelihood? Because some people are going to say, well, Congress, it's hard to get anything passed. You mentioned that there's bipartisan recognition that this is a mess. And I think anyone who is a college sports fan is nodding along. It is a mess right now. It's a broken, sort of haphazard system in place. Coaches, players, parents, certainly administrators, everybody. What do you think the chances are that this passes? I know, and I'll let you kind of dive in, that President Trump has been supportive of trying to get this fixed as well, because he's a big college sports fan. What's the time frame? What does that look like as you assess?
Well, I think there's a good chance that we can get it passed. We got Shamari Figures, a new member from the great state of Alabama, a Democrat. We got Janelle Bynum from Washington. So we got already some Democrats signing on. We think more will do it. And I think it's just a recognition that I use the example. I think the top college wrestling recruit this year is a young man out of the Pittsburgh area, and I think the rumors are he's getting like $500,000. So if the top wrestler is getting that, imagine what the quarterbacks are getting paid to go to these top-notch Big Ten, SEC universities. It's a ton of money. There needs to be something done, and everyone understands that. And so I think when you have coaches and college presidents and athletic directors and conference commissioners begin to talk to members of Congress and say, we need something that gives some framework to this to college sports, something we all love. I think there's a good chance we get the kind of bipartisan support that you don't see a whole lot of these days in Congress. But when it comes to college sports, I think you can get it, and we'll get something done that I think will be helpful to student athletes and helpful to college sports in general.
You've been one of the biggest and foremost defenders of Trump for 10 years. I mentioned that President Trump obviously is a huge sports fan. He's talking about having a UFC fight on the White House lawn, which would be amazing. I bet you'll be there. I'd like to be there. You and I were together at the NCAA Wrestling Championships in Philadelphia. You just referenced that. When you look at Trump 2.0 and the first 6 months of Trump 2.0 and you compare it to Trump 1.0, how much difference is there? And are you blown away, like both Buck and myself are, at the president's energy and just the efficiency with which they have attacked this new term?
Yeah, and it's he's got his team in place around him and these key, agencies, cabinet secretaries, and they're just amazing. And you just look at the attack on Iran was and taking out their nuclear capabilities was so successful. He goes to NATO, gets them to ante up more money, so successful. Gets the big beautiful bill passed, so successful. Best border security we've had in who knows our lifetime probably. And you can just keep going. All the things he's got done. It's truly amazing. And his energy, I called him last night, and then I actually went to bed, and I woke up this morning, and so where I had a missed call, he called me after 11 last night. And he was up early this morning working the phones. That's just the kind of energy he has. He loves the country. And one of the things I always say about him is, speaking of sports, he totally thinks like an athlete. He hates to lose. He despises losing, which is a great quality. I tell people it's an American quality, and it's certainly a character trait that you want in your commander-in-chief, in your president, and President Trump just has it. He's off to an amazing start, and I think it's just going to continue to be good things that'll happen for the country.
Yesterday, we mentioned the idea of primetime hearings surrounding the Joe Biden cover-up. I know you paid attention. The doctor took the Fifth Amendment yesterday. We led the show talking about that. Is there any momentum to really kind of put people under the spotlight of a major national hearing, much like occurred with the Jan 6 primetime hearings that Democrats did in, if I remember correctly, the summer of 22 or thereabouts? What kind of momentum, if any, might there be for something such as that?
Yeah, I think that option is certainly on the table with Chairman Comer. There's some things we're looking at in slightly different areas on the Judiciary Committee, specifically with the sort of the auto pen doctor, all that stuff with Joe Biden. I really think that it would be maybe the best thing is if you had a whistleblower come forward. I don't know if we're ever going to get that, but that to me seems what we need to really say, yes, there wasn't really Joe Biden giving the okay on this. This is other people, but that'll take a whistleblower coming forward to talk about that. Short of that, I think it's tough to ever prove it, but that doesn't mean you don't have hearings to just highlight how we now, we all saw it at the time, but how we know just how bad it was when President Biden was in there, and his inability, I think, to truly handle the task at hand.
We're talking to Congressman Jim Jordan. Last question for you, Congressman. Appreciate all the time. I think decently Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. I know there's a huge flare-up. Buck and I have been talking about this all week as to what might or might not be in the Epstein files, all those things. And you're not involved in the Department of Justice investigation, so I'm not asking you about that, but what confidence do you have, based on your knowledge of the team, in Kash Patel and Dan Bongino running the FBI?
I got complete confidence in them and Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche over at the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General. They're just night and day compared to what we had with Garland and Wray and that crowd. So, no, complete confidence. And the latest investigation they've announced into Comey and Brennan that has been reported, I mean, I think this is critically important because never forget what happened with Comey and Brennan and Clapper and these guys. In 2016, President Trump wins, and after Election Day, but before Inauguration Day, they all go up to Trump Tower in New York, and they brief him on the dossier, knowing at the time the dossier was BS. They brief him on it so they can leak it to the press. And give it, and therefore give it some kind of credibility. That's how low they went to go after President Trump. And now Director Ratcliffe has people who are saying, "Oh no, this dossier." Guys are saying what Brennan said in testimony to Congress was contradicted by what they did. So I do think that investigation is critically important.
Awesome. Appreciate the time, Congressman. Have a good weekend. I know we're not quite there, and keep us updated. Come back on whenever you want.
We will. Take care, Clay. Thanks, guys.
It's Congressman Jim Jordan. Let me tell you, everybody out there should have a will. You spend a huge part of your life doing what? Trying to make sure that your friends and particularly your family are taken care of. Your family in particular, when you are gone, that they are able to have the best possible situation. A huge number, in fact, the majority of people never go through the process of setting up a will and a trust to ensure that everything that happens after you die, maybe you limit arguments, maybe you limit uncertainty about what you might want. It used to be really difficult, and you needed to spend a lot of time with an attorney. Not the case anymore, thanks to companies like trustandwill.com. Trustandwill.com make it simple, affordable, and the result will give you peace of mind. Your surviving family members will have clarity on your wishes. It's easy. Go to trustandwill.com. They're experts in creating personalized trust and wills that protect your legacy. That's trustandwill.com.
Want to be in the know when you're on the go? The Team 47 Podcast. Trump highlights from the week. Sundays at noon Eastern in the Clay and Buck Podcast feed. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Third hour of Clay and Buck kicks off now. We are joined by Texas Senator Cornyn. Senator, appreciate you making the time for us. The story that is first and foremost in our minds this week is anything you can tell us about updates and what the latest is with the terrible flooding that hit the Hill Country in your home state of Texas and all the, of course, thoughts and prayers that this audience has been sharing with the families and the communities affected. What can you tell us, Senator?
Well, thank you for having me on. And yes, it's a very sad time. I think the numbers are now 109 recoveries. It's now 120 confirmed dead. And unfortunately, they were then able to account for about another 170 who are missing. Just so your listeners understand, this, of course, Guadalupe River there overflowed, went up 26 feet in 45 minutes in the middle of the night. But there were, in addition to some of the children, the young children at some of these camps like Camp Mystic, there were day campers, people who, cast a tent down by the Guadalupe River or had a camper there for the 4th of July and the fireworks. But unfortunately, they got swept up in this as well. So 120 confirmed dead, 170 missing. And, of course, this happened last Friday. So that number will probably go up.
What and I know we're still in the early days of uncovering exactly what went wrong. Obviously, it's hard to predict anything as it pertains to flooding and exactly when it's going to happen. But I know here where I live in Nashville, Senator, we had an awful tornado, and you go back and you look and you find out, hey, maybe there could have been a better tornado awareness system in place. Are there better flood-related technology that could be applied to help people in a situation like this where it comes through in the middle of the night and maybe people, it seems quite clearly, were sleeping and they don't know the severity and how quickly and rapidly the floodwaters are rising until in some cases, unfortunately, it was too late?
Well, that's a very important question, and I think there will be a time for us to explore all of that. I know Governor Abbott has added this issue to the special session that will convene in later this month in Austin. And, of course, we're already starting to look at some of these measures at the federal level, too, since we work cooperatively at the state, local, and federal level on disaster relief and events like this. But, unfortunately, there are always some people who want to make politics out of everything and claiming that staffing reductions at the National Weather Service or some other cut as a result of the Department on Government Efficiency or DOGE contributed to this. I will tell you that there is no evidence of any of that happening. But it is, I think, fair to ask, and indeed I think it's necessary for us to ask going forward, what can we do to prevent the loss of life again? If anything, as I said, this flooding occurred so fast in the middle of the night in a way that just it's hard to imagine what could have prevented it. But maybe there's something we can do in the future.
Speaking to Senator John Cornyn of Texas, and Senator, I also wanted to ask you about a story that, if it weren't for the huge story and the tragic story of the flooding, I think would be much more well known nationwide. It also occurred in Texas, and it's this ambush. I believe 11 people have been charged so far. Ambush of a federal law enforcement officer and an ICE officer who was hit in the neck. They had rifles and tactical gear. And to me, this is a harbinger, unfortunately, I think, of things to come with the way the radical left is going to approach this. What can you tell us about that case and about what law enforcement is doing to prepare for more of these radical attacks that are likely to come?
Well, I'm sure you'll agree with me that there is no excuse, no justification for attacking law enforcement officials like these two ICE agents and the police officer in Alvarado, Texas. And I know that a criminal complaint has been filed that alleges that the assailant shot between 20 and 30 rounds from an AR-15 style rifle before it jammed. But obviously a whole lot more casualties could have occurred as a result of this. And thank goodness they did not. But unfortunately, I think some of the rhetoric, the irresponsible rhetoric starting here in Congress, people from Chuck Schumer to Maxine Waters on down, have basically sanctioned violence against law enforcement officials. You're familiar with the fact that some of my colleagues here in the Senate, the Democratic colleagues, have said we need to pass a law that prevents ICE agents from wearing masks. They were the ones who wanted us all to wear masks back during COVID-19, but now when the law enforcement officials are doing their job and trying to protect themselves and their families, they don't want that to happen. So I can't imagine that the overwhelming majority of Americans condemn this sort of attack against law enforcement, and we ought to make clear that there is no excuse for this, and it will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Texas bore the brunt of illegal immigration more than any state in the nation. Now that illegal immigration has effectively ended, how much difference has it made in Texas, and what are you hearing from people in your state about the border now being shut down?
Well, I think they're gratified that the border is now under control, and now the Border Patrol can go back to their job that they were trained to do and that they want to do, which is to secure the border and to protect the country. Given the overwhelming numbers of people that were coming across during the open border policies of the Biden administration, many Border Patrol were doing things like changing diapers, feeding people, transporting migrants and the like, just because they were overwhelmed. And we all remember some of the detention facilities which were jam-packed with individuals, and what the answer of the Biden administration was to simply parole or to release these individuals and without even a notice to appear for a court hearing in the future. So I will say my constituents in Texas and along the border are as relieved as anybody for this, for President Trump to actually enforce the law. And I know the Border Patrol morale is at an all-time high because they are now being allowed to do what they trained to do, what they volunteered to do, which is to secure the border and to protect the public.
Senator, what can you tell us about the your sense of what is going to happen now that the BBB, the Big Beautiful Bill, has been passed? What do you think is most critical that comes from this, and what are you optimistic about?
Well, number one, we had to pass that bill because if not, we would have seen a multi-trillion-dollar tax increase on, according to the Wall Street Journal, 62% of taxpayers. So all this propaganda we've heard from the left and from Democrats that this just advantaged billionaires and millionaires is just not true. And it's shocking to me how easily people lie with impunity here in the nation's capital, but it's become sort of coin of the realm, and they are just they can't be shamed into stopping it. So we just need to combat that with the truth. And there's a lot of provisions of this bill that I think people can be very excited about. Number one, not having a huge tax increase on top of 40-year high inflation as a result of Bidenomics. The standard of living of Texans and Americans had gone down because of this hidden tax of inflation, and a tax increase is the last thing they need. But President Trump made clear he wanted to extend the benefits of these tax cuts to people who work for tips and who worked overtime. So this is truly a middle-class tax cut. And I believe it will stimulate the economy and economic growth in a way that will create a lot of new jobs. It will bring a lot of companies who built factories overseas, bring them back home, and create a lot of good, well-paying jobs here. I'm very optimistic about it, but it really can't be viewed in isolation. I think it's part of a larger package of economic reforms that President Trump is committed to that's going to see the economy take off. And right now we're hoping to see at least 3% growth in the economy, GDP, in coming years. We made a lot of these provisions permanent, including expensing the new equipment and bonus depreciation for small businesses. So I'm very optimistic about it, but obviously we got to go out and tell the story, and we need the guy with the best megaphone, the president, to get out there and help us, because people, when he speaks, people listen.
I know, last question for you, Senator. I know you're in the middle now of the primary process. I know it's going to be still a ways out. You've got a contender on, at least one contender on your side of the aisle in Ken Paxton. I don't know if you saw this, but Jasmine Crockett on the Democrat side is potentially considering throwing her hat in the ring. What can you tell us about the Senate race right now? And you just mentioned President Trump. Do you think he is going to weigh in the primary? Do you expect him to stay out? How is this going to play out in your mind?
Well, when I saw Jasmine Crockett was the leading candidate in a Democratic primary, I wanted to say, "Run, Jasmine, run." But so I don't know who's going to get in the race. There may be more people in the Republican primary. The race is pretty quick. I mean, the election's on March the 3rd, so we're the earliest one in the nation. But I've run a number of races in the past. We know what to do, and I'm confident of the outcome. But Democrats are hoping that the Attorney General is successful because he's probably the only Republican that a Democrat could beat in the general election. And because of all of his many troubles I won't go into right here, but we haven't elected a statewide Democrat for 30 years in Texas, and they're looking to break that winning streak if for somehow he's able to squeak out a win in this primary on March the 3rd. But I'm determined not to let that happen.
Senator, we appreciate the time, and run, Jasmine, run. I think there's a lot of people out there that think she would probably be the best possible steward for the Democrat Party in the 2026 Senate race. Appreciate the time, sir, and I want to remind everybody out there, we have fundraising opportunities for everybody for the Texas flood victims up at clayandbuck.com if you're looking for a good place to donate. Thank you, Senator.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Since 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been supporting America's greatest heroes and their families, heroes who protect our communities and our country, heroes like firefighter James Dickman. He was passionate about fire safety and aspired to do everything in his power to keep his community and fellow firefighters safe. While responding to an apartment fire, James and his crew tried to save people who were thought to be trapped inside. When the situation escalated, James was unfortunately not able to escape. He perished in the blazing inferno, the cause of the fire, arson. James leaves behind his loving wife, Jamie, children, Paige, and Grant. Tunnel to Towers gave the Dickman family the gift of a mortgage-free home. Jamie is grateful to Tunnel to Towers and to caring friends like you for lifting the financial burden of a mortgage off her shoulders. Join us in donating $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
News and politics, but also a little comic relief. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back in, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. That battle in general, Buck, in the Texas Senate race, I just kind of mentioned Jasmine Crockett. It is very funny. Run, Jasmine, run, was what Senator John Cornyn said. He is running against Ken Paxton on the Republican side, the Attorney General, and there is talk that there may be other people throwing their hats in the ring. Democrat side is going to have a lot too. And he mentioned that the primary is early in Texas in March. So that will be a big battle to see whether Trump gets involved. And in the larger political universe, that is a Senate seat that Democrats would have to be able to flip to put the Senate really in danger. North Carolina now, with Tom Tillis not running, is going to be an open, no incumbent seat. There's a lot of battlegrounds in New Hampshire, in Michigan, in so many different states out there, Georgia, to see exactly what's going to happen. But this is why building the biggest possible advantage, 53-47 with the tiebreak, matters so much. Texans, I would be stunned if they're going to vote for a Democrat, but there's going to be a lot of money raised, a lot of energy out there. So that's one to pay attention to, as I know many of you out there are paying attention to. We got a question from a caller that I think is a good one. that is diving in with the question. Unfortunately, now that over 100 people have died, that flood hitting in the middle of the night as it did. Greg in Orlando, Florida, this is a really good question that I think a lot of people are wondering going forward to try to keep this from happening. Fire away.
Hey, guys. Love you guys. I'm a local truck driver here, so I have the ability to listen to it all day long from...
we love our truckers. You guys are rolling with us the whole show. Thank you.
Yeah, to you guys, to Dana Lash, and all great programs, but I look forward mostly for you guys, so I love the show. What I wanted to say was I'm not familiar with Texas per se, but here in Florida, we have alert systems, Amber Alerts for children that are missing. I wonder if there's anything in place or could go in place like that for national disaster type events that could help mitigate or prevent or at least alert larger areas of something.
Look, it's a very good question, Greg, and I think that they're going to look at this. But I'll just point this out. You guys, and I know this is going to sound like it's very different, but it'll make sense in a second. You know how when trucks go backwards, they beep?
Yeah.
They make this beeping sound. They've looked into this because still sometimes people get run over by the truck even when it's beeping. And I think you can guess why. People get so used to hearing the beeping and it's so
when the
loud.
Danger isn't there oftentimes too.
Correct. Because it's so far away that their brain doesn't process, oh, maybe there's something actually that's a real risk here. Because you're hearing that beeping everywhere, beep, 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 all the time. That can be the truth of alerts too. You hear these alerts, and if you hear them too frequently, especially about something like flooding in a flood prone area, so then you get into how do you know when it's really the time and you're really telling people, and who makes that decision?
It's a little bit like, yes. And I think they're going to look into that. And I think it's something, again, I mentioned we had tornado sirens here. They go off, and I think it's the most valuable at night because during the day you can assess in some way if the river is coming up. You can see it. You can look outside. You can recognize it. If you're sleeping, even if you're getting alerts on your phone, you may not recognize them, and it can happen so quickly. You almost have to wake someone up from sleep. And then the challenge becomes, to your point, Buck, sometimes if you do it too frequently, you just presume that it's not an actual danger and you ignore it anyway.
Cell phone service is no longer expensive, or at least it doesn't have to be, thanks to Pure Talk. Pure Talk, about a half dozen years ago, introduced a $25 a month plan with unlimited talk, text, and lots of data. And all these years later, they haven't raised their rates. So switch to Pure Talk from Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile and realize the cost savings without suffering any difference in the quality of your service, and in fact get better customer service. Little known secret in the cell phone industry, Pure Talk is on the same 5G network as the big names that you've heard of out there, and Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. That's less than half the price of those other companies on average. And with Pure Talk, you keep your phone and your number from your cell phone. Dial pound 250, say Clay and Buck. You'll save an additional 50% off your first month. You can switch in about 10 minutes. So from your current cell phone, dial pound 250, say Clay and Buck, save 50% off that first month.
This is an iHeart podcast.